Let's first talk about the setup features. Press the setup button. Let's start with this first button. Press touchscreen calibration. This will calibrate your screen so that your touches will register properly. It is a good idea to do this when you first set up your unit or whenever you update the unit. Follow the instructions by pressing the specified areas, and then you will be returned to the system setup screen. The next button down is Diagnostics. This button is used for troubleshooting, and you do not need to access this button. The next button down is called Initial Equipment Setup. This procedure should only be done when you first set up your unit, although if you ever update the program, you may need to run this function again. Press this button and you will be taken to a passcode screen. Enter the passcode and then proceed to the verification screen. These instructions are really only related to hardware setup, so probably it will not be applicable to you if your unit has already been properly set up. Advance through it until you see this screen. Note that your touchscreen will operate up to 2 different pieces of equipment. Normal flavoring equipment is attached to P2 connector on the back of the touchscreen. However, if you're running the touchscreen with a mix-in type of unit that mixes candy into soft serve, then that piece of equipment would normally be attached to the P3 connector. This first screen operates the equipment attached to the P2 connector. If you push this Setup Second Unit button, you will be taken to a similar page to set up the equipment attached to the P3 connector. So, if you only have one piece of equipment attached to your touchscreen, assuming that it is a flavoring unit, you will need to make sure that this first screen is set up properly for the P2 connector. If you are operating a mix-in unit, you will need to make sure that the settings are correct on the second screen that sets up the P3 connector. In both cases, you should make sure that the connector not being used does not show any pieces of equipment attached. In this case, you will see that nothing is attached to the P3 connector. If you happen to be running 2 pieces of equipment, you will need to set them up on both of these screens. Let me explain how these setup screens work. First, you will want to remove any checkboxes from number 5 through 8, and then start working on number 1 through 4. In most cases, you will have equipment attached that will flavor only one spout. In that case, you will want to check spout A for flavors 1 through 4, and then select the type of unit you've attached to it. It will either be a self-serve flavoring system, a beverage flavoring system, such as shake, slush, frozen coffee, or FCB, or it could be a mix-in type of unit. Note that in most cases, what you've entered in to 1 through 4 will be identical to what you will want to enter in 5 through 8. There are 2 exceptions to this, however. If you are only operating a 4-flavor unit, you would simply select None as your equipment for flavors 5 through 8. The other exception is if you have a dual spout piece of equipment attached to the connector. These model numbers start with a TS44. In the case where a TS44 dual spout unit is attached, the settings for 5 through 8 would have a check mark in the opposite spout. Note that spout A should always be considered the spout on the left, and spout B should always be considered the spout to the right. Once you have finished setting up your equipment, press the back button until you get to the System Setup screen. Press the Passcode Enable button and you will be taken to a screen that allows you to enable the passcode feature. If you check this box, it will require that the operator always enter a passcode into a passcode screen whenever the setup button is pressed. This feature prevents users from accessing any of the setup and maintenance functions, making it especially useful in self-serve environments. For our purposes, we will leave it unchecked. Let's press the back button to return to this system setup screen. When you press the second language button, you will be taken to a screen that allows you to enable the second language feature. This feature adds an extra screen that requires the operator to select between 2 different languages. It is especially useful in areas where 2 languages are prominent. Let me demonstrate how this looks. Check the button and press Done. You will be taken to the home screen where 2 language options are shown. When you select one, In this instance, let's select Spanish. You will be taken to a screen where everything is in Spanish. If you press the back button, you will get back to the home screen, which will be displayed in the language last selected. Now, if you press the setup button, you'll see everything in Spanish. If you want it back in English, press the Done button and return back to the home screen. Then select English. Now everything